Good evening, everyone. I hope that you are doing well. Um, I would like to continue our talk about the diplomatic relations between South Africa and the United States of America. But I want to look at it from a historical perspective to say, if you look 175 years ago, in 1850, in the USA, a law was passed, which was called the Fugitive Slaves Act, which basically meant that if a slave escaped to another state or to within a state, the authorities had the right to capture that slave and return that slave to forced labor, to enslavement, really. Meaning that perhaps that is how President Ramaphosa should have approached his visit to America to say, we recognize that America has a history of slavery and that if we sign mining agreements with the Americans, the labor practices may not be fair, uh, even in the mining setting. That when their executives come with their companies, they must be mindful that South Africa is not America. We have our own constitutional history, which values human dignity. On paper, of course, because if you consider mining, you also think about the Marikana massacre, where miners were killed because they were demanding a living wage of 12,500 rands. I don't know how much that would be today in 2025 in June, uh, but that was a reasonable demand at that time. So, meaning that we must be very careful when we bring in investors. Uh, we must study their history and how they've treated black people because the expectation is that in those mines, if we are saying that we agree with the Americans that we need to increase our mining production as South Africa. Of course, if we listen to what President Jacob Zuma was saying about the economy itself, to say there must be local beneficiation and then we must be involved in the production of things, of finished goods. For example, Stats SA should be reporting how many weapons we are producing and to which countries are we sending those weapons so that we can assess what is our role in the bigger international picture in terms of the wars that are being fought in the world today. Because you might find that we are supplying both sides of the same war, so that we can study who are we selling our guns to, if we are manufacturing guns at all. Because you can see that the guns that are in our market, firstly it was the Turkish, and then it was the basically the Turkish. So meaning that is our arms corps competing internationally with other arms manufacturers, and are those international arms manufacturers uh, benefiting from our raw materials and manufacturing finished products, which is a weapon, which is a handgun or a rifle, whatever kind of weapon that they choose to produce. But maybe that we are not doing that enough in our own country because we have so many people who are unemployed. We have a youthful population, meaning that we have people who are trainable, who can still be trained to manufacture these things, not only arms, of course, but also other things that the Americans, the Chinese, and other leading civilizations are producing, including the Indians. So so that's how I think I would have approached the talks themselves so that I have a historical context to say where are the representatives of black people in this meeting. Uh, because you can see that in that meeting there are various interests, and it's very clear that there are various interests. So meaning that as a black president coming from the richest country in Africa, or the second richest country in Africa, if you want to believe that the Nigerians have the biggest economy or the Egyptians have the biggest economy. But of course, a country with a long history of humanitarian work with Nobel Prize winners, uh, three of them, of course, two coming from the same street, Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu, but the first winner being Chief Albert Lutuli from eThekwini. So, and many of the ANC comrades, the founders, went to America to study, being sponsored by churches. So that's how I would have opened my discussion to say, how do we ensure that we have a fair student exchange where the student experience It's not bad for South Africans who go to America who experience racism and like that tourist from Zululand, that guy, Arabic guy from Zululand, who was killed in America because of some altercation in his household. So meaning that those are some of the issues that I would have opened with to make sure that you understand the history of black people in that particular setting before you even speak about the Mexicans and the Indians and their experience of America and also the various groups from Europe who migrated at different times for different reasons to Europe, so that you have a sociological view of America as a country itself, and also of where the president himself comes from. Because you might find that coming from Europe, his native country might be at war ideologically with the British. Maybe he's Irish. I don't know. Maybe he's Scottish. I don't know. But President Ramaphosa should have known that, and then also understood that as a president of the USA, he also has his own race relations that he has to deal with, maybe from back in the old country in Europe or from the USA itself, where he grew up, whether he grew up in New York or he grew up in the whole of the USA or on Mars or whatever. But he also had to deal with some race relation growing up. Thank you.